everyone, it's Morgyn from For the Love of Paper, and I'm here with a layout process video for you today. So I haven't been doing too many layouts recently, but this one I am entering into a challenge for Show Us Your Stuff blog. I did just have a picture of the sketch for this month up on screen, so that's the sketch that I'm working off for this particular layout. It's a photo of Sam and his grandparents' new puppy Lily, which if you've seen any of my Project Life videos you would have seen her already. And this was just a super cute photo that I printed. I accidentally printed this the wrong way in my printer, and to put in my Project Life I wanted it landscape and it didn't print like that, so I saved it and I'm like, oh well, this will work perfectly for this layout. So if you do make mistakes when you're printing your photos, just keep them aside and you might be able to make a layout out of them, so saves throwing them in the bin and wasting the paper and the ink. So yeah, and my other challenge to myself was to only use scrap paper for this layout, other than my 12 by 12 background piece, which is actually an incredibly old sheet of paper. I think it might have been from a really old Stampin' Up collection, like 5-6 years ago, maybe even longer. So we can almost consider that scrap. So I went through my scrap container, which is sitting off to the right of screen there, and I pulled out a few bits and pieces that I wanted to use, which are in that pile to the left that I'm going through now. So yeah, I just got those all together to try and use them up. And I wasn't really going for a color scheme as such, but it kind of ended up as that bluey greeny color. The background is actually a bit more green than what it shows on the video. It shows it a bit more blue. And then I added in some yellow, black and grey, pretty much was what I ended up with. So I mounted the photo on some black cardstock, and then I mounted it again on this yellow paper, again from another old Stampin' Up collection. I've got a lot of Stampin' Up paper from their older collections in my cupboard, so you will hear me mentioning those a lot. And this paper here is from a 6x6 paper pad from the Reject Shop. It doesn't have a name. I can't even remember when I got it, probably sometime at the beginning of the year. And because I'm frugal, I cut out the middle bit because I really only needed an L shape to put around the edge of the photo. So I cut out that little bit that I know I can use in another layout at another time. So that's how I end up with so many scraps, is because I do things like that. And I wanted to have the two strips going vertically down the page, which kind of meant I flipped the sketch a little bit. But when I put it all together, it didn't quite look right. So I do end up moving those. Excuse me. Oh, sorry, I just hit the microphone too. So I just sort of stick all this together and make like the base of my photo with all the layers and everything to start with, and then I go back and add the embellishments and things like that before I stick anything down. I like to have a look at what it looks like. So here I'm just putting these in to see if I like it, and I don't. And I think it's because in the photo the two subjects, the dog and Sam, going across make a horizontal line, so I think it looked a lot better with the papers following that same line, and I wanted them to stick out a little bit more than what they did, so I just chopped that piece in half, and no one would ever know that it's not a whole piece of paper. Well, I mean, I suppose you guys all do now, but someone in 10 years looking at this will never know. And I think that's pretty much where I leave it for the base of my photo and layers. And then I'm just trying to add in some embellishments. So on the sketch, it had like a little cutout or a little tag or something at the top of the layers, so that's what I'm trying to replicate here. And then it looked a little funny having that sitting all by itself, so I decided to go through and do the visual triangle thing, and I added a little bit of grey in there to try and tie in with the grey of those little hearts, and then I end up using that little off-cut piece of paper as well, so it gives the white paper some grounding, having the grey behind it, and then having that heart paper in 3 different places. I do put another piece up the top as well. I'm not sure if I do that now or later on in the video, but yeah, having that same pattern paper in 3 little spots across the page really sort of focuses your eye, like brings it in to look at the photo. So that's why I've decided to do it that way. And now I'm going through my little box of bits and pieces. This is a completely random box. I've got hearts, stars, arrows, paper clips, some flares, lots of little trinkets and bits and bobs in this box of stuff. So I just go through and try and pull out some embellishments that I think will work. I do fluff around with this for quite a while. I'm pretty sure I cut out a big chunk of me fluffing around with embellishments because I ummed and ahed for so long about it, and I couldn't decide which one of these arrows I wanted to use. I really wanted half of one and half of the other, but I didn't want to pull it apart and risk ripping it and breaking it, so I just went with the blue one, even though it's got pink on it. That was the part I didn't like. I didn't like the pink on the end, but it looked better than the other one that was really, really pink. So I just did that. And I used that little, it's kind of like a flare button badgy thing. And it says sunshine on it. And I kind of went with that yellow to match with the background. It's a bit more orange, but it works. And there, that's where I'm doing my little, my 3rd little cluster up in that top corner. And what am I coming back to do now? Finding some more embellishments. So I cut, that's where I went through it. I sat there for like 15 minutes trying to find embellishments, and all I ended up finding was the circle up in the top right hand corner of the layout, which just says hello, and it matches the yellow of that sunshine brad button thing from before. And now I'm going to stick down all of these pieces. So this bit was pretty easy, just sticking down all my different layers, but I don't actually stick the photo cluster to the page yet, because I do some mixed media, I suppose, stuff on the page as well after I've done all of this. I don't know why I cut that off there. It really made no difference whatsoever. What have I got left to do? Oh, just to stick these couple of bits down. See, I really can fluff around with these things to make sure they're just right, which I love doing, but I also annoy myself when I do it because I get so frustrated if it's not quite right. I'm trying to let go. I'm trying so hard, and I'm a lot better than I used to be. So I trimmed that down so it was at the edge of an arrow because it looked kind of funny halfway through an arrow. So that's why I trimmed that off. And I think this is where I can do my mixed media. Oh no, I've got to glue this bit down. I forgot I hadn't stuck all that down. So it's kind of fiddly to do all these little bits, but I don't know, when you're doing it, you don't really notice. It's only when you go back and look at it like this as a video that you realize how much fiddling around you did. This layout actually took me, not including the time to dry my mixed media, it took me an hour 10 to do the whole layout, which is quite a long time for me. In fact, it's a really long time for me. So I've cut out quite a few little bits of me fluffing around, because otherwise it would just be way too long for you to see. So I got out some Liquitex heavy body acrylic paint in, I'm not sure what the color is, but it's yellow. I got some texture paste. I'm not sure, I think it's Joe Sonia's is the brand of texture paste. And then I got out a couple of little stencils as well. And I made up this yellow color, which worked really well for the background paper, the first layer of pattern paper under my photo. But I decided I wanted to make it a bit more orange, so it matched with the two embellishments that I'd put on the layout. So I just went and got a little tiny dot of that. That's a Dina Wakley. I think that's a heavy body acrylic as well. And I think it's like tangerine or something is the color of that one. So I just added a teeny tiny bit to give it a bit of orange to it. And I measured up my photo, so I knew where I needed to put the texture paste on the page. And I think I just applied it with that little spatula. I know I got the old library card out there that's what I normally smooth this sort of stuff on with, but I think, yeah, I just used the little plastic spatula, which came in a pack of, I think there was like 6 or 7 different spatulas for $2 at the junk shop. So that was a really good find, and I've had that one for like 2 years now, so I thought it would have broken by now, but it hasn't. So really good investment. Better than a metal one for, $18, $20. And so I just used a few different parts of the stencil around the layout. And so those will poke out underneath the photo. On the sketch, it was meant to be like, I think it was like paint splatters, but I didn't really feel in a paint splattery mood, so that's why I got my stencils out instead. In the end, I don't actually like that one that I'm doing now. I wished I had used the same stencil as I did down the bottom, but never mind. Hindsight, you can always change it. And I do go back later on and add in a little bit more over the top once it's dry. Actually, once I'd finished the layout altogether, I went back in and added a few more little bits here and there, which you'll see right at the end of the video. And then I decided that I wanted some under that, so I ripped that up, and yes, it did rip the paper and the background paper and the embellishment all got ripped, but it didn't matter. Once I stuck it back down again, it was fine. So I just went and cleaned my stencils and stuff off, and then I'm back to sticking some embellishments down. I already stuck the photo, the layers and everything. I've stuck all of that down off camera, and now just putting the embellishments in place. And I'm trying to find something to go on the right hand side of the photo, and I was really struggling with what I could put there. I had this gold glitter heart out, but it just blended in too much and didn't look right. So I went and did my title. As you can see down the bottom, it says "Together is a great place to be," and the big Together letters, they're like black glitter, so they're kind of sparkly. Doesn't show up on camera, but they are kind of glittery. And I think once that was in, it was a lot easier to find the embellishments that worked. So I pulled out this puppy dog piece that was from one of the die cut packs, again from the reject shop. And even though it's not the same type of dog, it still kind of goes with the photo, and I would probably never ever use that die cut on any other layout. And this one is Crepe Paper Love Collection, and I really wanted the word I think I said adorbs, like for adorable, and on the packet I thought it was a lot smaller than what it was, but when I finally go through and find it, it's huge, so I couldn't use it. I was a bit disappointed that I couldn't use that because I really wanted to. But I did find this little gold XOXO, so I used that. And then here's some embellishments that I had made before. So this was all from like punched out pieces and bits of old Project Life cards and bits of scraps, all things that I'd punched out with my hole punches and just random bits that I had lying around, like teeny tiny scraps. And I'd made all of these little embellishment clusters, and I finally remembered them, so I pulled them out, and one of them fitted really well with the layout. It had kind of similar sort of colors, and it had a bit of pink, so that tied in with the arrow that I'd done previously. So that was it. It was actually really easy to find embellishments to go in that corner because I had already made them. So that is a good tip. Use up your scraps, make some little embellishment clusters yourself, and just have them there for when you need them. Times like this. And what's that? Oh, that's the little XO. I decided to stick that up the top there. Maybe. Yes, I do. Going it down. And I think that is this layout pretty much done. I know I go back and add in some more texture paste on the top left, and I do add a little bit more above the photo and also by the that little cluster at the top, because when I did, I didn't actually measure it out and it wasn't down far enough. So after I add these enamel dots, and I do all of that off camera. I actually turned my camera off because I thought I was finished, and then I went back in later and added some more onto it. And then I also did a squiggly line border just with the pen around the outside. And that's the layout finished, guys. So here's some close-ups, and thanks for watching. I will be back with another Project Life process video tomorrow. Bye.